anime community, just like size versus
motion, which I think is the separation. Hello and welcome to Perfectly Mid Pod.
You have Neko Girl M,
Charmander Steve,
and I am the creature of the night, the Black Dragon Carlo.
And we'll see how long we're willing to stay in these costumes. It's a little warm for
so hot.
October. I don't know what's going on.
For October 30th,
it was 70
in
degrees
New York
today.
City.
In New York City.
It is quite muggy.
And if it was hot now, 2 weeks after New York Comic Con, you can imagine how hot it was at New York Comic Con. Was that the most sweltering con we've been to this year?
No.
I don't know.
No?
We were at
AX.
I
guess I don't know. AX, at least there's a breeze.
Oh no, I was melting on the autograph line.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't spend time outside.
There was no shade.
But at New York Comic Con, this felt like a really hot one.
Yeah. Well,
Irrespective of it being a week later than it usually is.
Yeah. So this is our last con of the year, I think.
Thank God.
Definitely our last big con.
I'm sad.
We hit the biggest North America anime con, maybe the second or third biggest in the world with AX. We hit the biggest Comic Con in San Diego, and then the second biggest is New York. And Anime NYC, which is one of the bigger anime cons. So we've definitely...
And one of the oldest with Otakon.
Oh, that's true.
Yes,
you hit up Otakon. So we're pretty well regarded, and the cats are celebrating how much we've done by running around. Obviously, we've been going to, at least for me, New York Comic Con I've been going to the longest of all of them. Is same for you guys?
Yeah, 2015 I think was our first.
Okay.
We were still
or 14, 15 or 14.
Yeah, 14 or 15.
I think mine was like 12. No, not 12. I just moved here 13 or 14.
We cosplayed that first one we did. Well, we didn't cosplay. We did Avatar Bound.
Oh, so I think I remember those costumes.
We lived in Queens.
My brother and his wife, and we went as the four nations.
Yes, I saw you guys there. So I think that was my second or third New York Comic Con, because the first year I went solo and I dressed as Krieger from Archer. When it was only like a couple seasons in. And like a lot of people got it, and like now people are like, what is Archer? What are you dressed in?
But it's good. I mean, New York Comic Con still feels like New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Not a lot has changed, I would say.
In a good way.
Yeah. A few things we'll talk about, but like it feels as busy. It doesn't feel like it's gotten bigger because it was already so big when we were already going. Like if I was to look at my first year, my last year, the only difference is that they've opened up the other section of the Javits Center. It's not about the con.
Yeah, and that was purely like renovation based.
Yeah, I would say the crowd feels like anime is bigger now, and that definitely is reflected in the con. Even though it's not AX, it's not Anime NYC, but that's probably the only change.
Yeah, and that's actually only in a small scale, because if I look at before when Anime NYC started to now, I feel like there's some bigger names just because it's gotten bigger, but less anime content at New York Comic Con than there used to be, because I think some of it just inherently got
migrated.
It's migrated to Anime NYC. If you like anime, there's still plenty at New York Comic Con. It's just not to the degree it used to be.
You have to search a little harder.
Yeah, but then they get huge guests, so it's still great.
Yeah.
But if you're into Western stuff, which I'm personally not as much, but there's tons of it there.
There's a lot of like activities.
Yeah. Speaking of activities generally, hello, kitty cat. What did you guys, like, what really stuck out to you? I know we put out a couple of shorts on the channel just highlighting a few thoughts that we had when we were physically there, but now that we've had time to think about it, like, what were your highlights?
So I think for me, because there was a little bit of lacking, in my opinion, on the panel perspective, I was able to engage more with the activities. So I think one of the highlights for me was getting to learn Mahjong from like a professional Mahjong player who lives in Tokyo, and she's like part of the professional Mahjong circuit. So that was really fun.
And there are like
that was wild.
Different types of Mahjong.
Yeah, I learned like that there's Japanese Mahjong, Chinese Mahjong, there's US Mahjong, and it's all very different.
Which is apparently the most different than all of them. Yep.
Yeah, so that was being able to actually, because usually I'm running around like a chicken and I'm like trying to do everything, see everything. But because there was a little bit less in my wheelhouse of interests, I was like, okay, let me do some of the tabletop gaming. Let me go into those areas and take that part all in, which I have never really done before. So I appreciated that.
And that's because, and we talked about this when we talked about other cons, but because we go the first day, which is pretty late, like we were done with the floor after day one.
And Artist Alley.
Yeah. And Artist Alley.
Yeah, Artist Alley was
a little lacking this year.
And super heavy on Western content, which I understand why, but there was almost no anime content in Artist Alley, so there just wasn't, I appreciated some people's art.
Yeah.
And Artist Alley at NYCC it's different than the anime conventions. I feel like the anime conventions there's a lot of merchandise to be sold, Whereas Artist Alley, it's really like they're signing prints, they're drawing. It's really about
commission based.
Yeah, it's maybe 20 to 30% people who've made their own stuff, but it's mostly comic book artists. So the last day I went around with my buddy who publishes his own comic and helped him. I actually didn't shoot anything for him this time, but he got a bunch of different commissions, so I got to like meet some other artists that he knows.
Yeah.
I think I'll be doing stuff with him in the future. So like it was cool to see it from his perspective because it's like, hey, this is a totally different element of New York Comic Con I don't engage with, and this has been his life, and his knowledge goes so deep into this thing I just don't know.
What I wish they would have done in that section, and we had mentioned it before, I wish they like based on what type of art they do, not like, oh, I draw Invader Zim, I draw superheroes, but more like I do horror type art, I do classic type art, I do anime style art. I wish they split it up a little bit. That way you could discover more. Like when everything's so jumbled up, it's hard to discover new things because it's almost like sensory overload.
This has always been my critique with the New York Comic Con Artist Alley is the aisles are labeled as letters, but that does not coincide with the name of the artists that are in those aisles.
My OCD is also triggered by that.
I'm like, oh, I really love like
Scott Snyder,
but he's not in the S aisle. He'll be in like the G aisle.
Which I'm sure there's some certain names where they'd need too long of an aisle, but like I do the same thing.
It's just like my mind automatically goes, like the fact that my manga is organized alphabetically.
It's confusing because upstairs is numbered. It's because upstairs is numbered, so they don't want to have confusion, but they're numbered in the thousands, so just call them like 1, 2, 3.
Honestly, it's probably they just have those banners. They've had them since at least 2015.
Yeah, this is our short where it's just like cons for OCD people.
Yeah.
I mean, every con.
I assume the reason they don't do that, because I would also love if they just had it where I could just go to the sections I care about and skip horror because it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I assume the reason they do this is they don't want people to like not accidentally discover someone. If they were like, I'm just going to this corner of Artist Alley and I'm not going to look at the rest, you lose out on potential discoverability.
This J18 area.
I think
whether or not that works. I don't think I've seen a con do it that way. Like I don't think SCCC or X did it either.
I don't think there's but
it'd be nice.
Like you'd have to like self-identify.
Well, you would also have to silo yourself, right?
Yeah. What if you do action adventure? Like easy example, Dandadan. Where are you putting that?
No, I would say the artist.
Right. If Yuki Nobutatsu is there, where does he go?
I would like for NYCC. It would be
if he was an
anime
artist
style art.
Okay. But if like I guess I was using that as an example of like you can't easily classify it as thriller or horror. Like, pretend he did Western media.
Yes.
How would you classify him?
Yeah, then I would put him like. Ooh.
You'd have to think about it.
Yeah.
So it's like any author and some artists like to do different types of stories. I'm already seeing some challenges we might have with the camera.
It's okay. The cats are.
It's just funny because I'm gonna have footage of Kitty running through. They probably run into challenges there. We'll see if the cat keeps the camera alone the entire time.
Cut to his tail.
Cut to his butt as he's like dancing in front of the camera.
But more so like we were talking about the OCD thing. Like, like as a person who is easily overstimulated, like having some level of organization helps.
Yes,
fair.
Because there's organization upstairs. There's some justification to like the people reselling comics, like old comics, are all kind of in an area.
Yeah, all of the like corporate vendors are in a certain area. All of the small mom and pop comic shops are in a certain area.
What was the name of the area that they used to call in New York Comic Con?
The Block.
The Block. That doesn't exist anymore, right?
No, the Block used to be an area where it was more like
eclectic fashion-y.
Like it was like it was for
like bait.
Yeah, it was for like hype beast style.
It's all just mixed on the main floor now.
Yeah,
now it's just I feel like it's become so big, like that style of clothing and that style of just like content.
We have to refocus, guys.
Yeah. Yes, Mahjong was really cool. I was there with Emily. I had wanted to learn for a while, and it was cool learning from a pro, especially somebody who's apparently been living in Japan for 28 years. I didn't think of things we didn't know. Japan is the only country with a professional Mahjong league, and they've got 5, I think she said.
Yeah.
Like, I was surprised to hear that, but
that's false.
That's what she said.
That's false.
Probably in the Philippines or underground.
You can ask my parents. They run one in their house.
No, that's what I was going to say is because we asked, we're like, it didn't originate there. Why not like China or Singapore? And she's like, they don't have professional leagues. People just like, they just play. And in certain countries, it's like a gambling. It's so strong of a gambling culture that hey, Kitty.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't like Japanese Mahjong. You're not gambling.
If you're in the league,
I'm sure there's
discouraged,
places to gamble, but not in the league. In the league, they don't. It's like any other professional sport.
It's discouraged that you gamble.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can cut this part, but is the game set up in such a way that you can gamble?
I mean, I'm sure you could.
I think you can go to like a parlor.
No, but I mean like the function of the game, like
the rules are slightly different. Like I assume because there's a scoring system, so like people win.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could.
So they're
if you wanted to gamble, you could not just gamble on like, am I going to win or lose? But you could be like, hey, am I going to hit these like? There's like wild hands that you can hit that I tried to do and really screwed up.
Like you couldn't gamble on taboo.
I mean, sure you could win or lose, but
but like
that's it.
Besides that,
mahjong that you could gamble on so many things.
There's no level of like bluffing. Or
honestly, it reminds me of
no. There's no bluffing. It's yes or no.
It reminds me of craps because there's like probably 80 different ways you could bet on it.
Interesting.
Different ways.
All right, so mahjong.
Mahjong was really cool, and I forgot that even happened. Do you have one in mind?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the What We Do in the Shadows panel. They had pretty much the whole cast except for Nadja there, and they had the showrunners. It's the last season, and they've done. I mean, since it's premiered, like they do an event at New York Comic Con every year,
and San Diego.
So it was just so much fun to watch them one last time in New York, and watch the premiere of the 2 episodes, and just have a community of people around you who have been following the show and following these characters for so long.
I think it was one of the few capped panels on standby.
Yeah, it was.
I was like 10 away before I was being turned away.
Yeah.
I was quite lucky.
I got in on reservation. That and McDonald's stood out to me. Free lunch every day. That was great.
Yeah.
I didn't have to have Corilla every day.
But you did have to wait in I think a longer line for McDonald's. I mean, depending on when you hit it.
Yeah.
I think my highlight is still thinking about it. The Lazarus panel, just seeing Shinichiro Watanabe, the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and so many other things, finally come back to do a action sci-fi series.
Yeah.
And the guy's, it's been 20 years. So he's had 20 years to improve his craft. And we talked about this in the cab, but he got the stunt choreographer from John Wick and
awesome.
Those musicians I was talking about. I can't remember his name, but there's 3 really good like blues.
Kamasi Washington.
Kamasi Washington and 2 other big blues creators. And then a sound production company from Hollywood. I also forget their name. I'll drop it.
That are all working on this.
They're all in every single one. He was like, I wanted, I was like, let me try. And the producers he was talking to, he kept saying, not the guy on stage was a producer translating. And he'd be like, Shinichiro says, a producer, not me, but other producers. Oh, you got the poster, yeah. Would tell him like, there's no way these people are going to do it. They do it for Hollywood. They have massive budgets, and every single one, he went to all 3 of these people, and they were like, I love Cowboy Bebop. I watch Space Dandy.
So who's
Kamasi Washington watches all of his shows. He's like every single one of these people came in and were like, I would love to work on your thing. I don't care about the money.
So who's producing it? Is it a Japanese company producing it?
Yeah. It's a Japanese anime. I can't remember which studio is doing it. They put out the teaser. I got to see the first episode, and it's awesome. It was really, really good.
When is it
And
premiering?
it's done next year.
When you say it's done, the first episode or the whole series is done?
He said a comment that made Shinichiro Watanabe as if he had seen the whole show. Like all 13 episodes. And it's not like Bebop or Dandy where certain episodes are just like fun little side adventures. The whole thing is one story, so it's more like a Western 1-season show. It's a cohesive story. So he's like, you're gonna want to just binge this.
Dude, one-offs, sign me up.
Yeah.
Now I
want to binge it.
Watching anime for 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, the same anime for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an ensemble. There's the main guy, but there's other people introduced who bring skill sets. Think like an Ocean's 11 style kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. Too much positivity? Switch angles? What
did you not like? You know what? There's really not much to say. New York Comic Con is New York Comic Con for me. Like everything that I expected was there. I think the only thing, I guess I'm spoiled from having gone to so many cons, that you see a lot of reused assets by the corporate overlords.
Yeah, any big brand that you see there has got the same
it's the same merch, it's the same stand, it's the same type of panels, same guests. So like after a while,
merch at least, like Atsuko had a new thing
they
knocked out, but like by and large it was the same.
By and large it's the same. So like after a while you just, if you go to all the cons, you're just like, oh well, that's fun.
Here's Ultraman again. To be fair, Ultraman's cool, but I'm like, I've seen him
I've seen the same. What is it? Gear 4 Luffy?
Gear 4 Luffy for the past 2 years.
Like,
that's true. They've been using him
the
forever.
same Gear 4 Luffy and the same Goku doing Kamehameha.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, okay. Guess that just lives at the Javits Center.
For how much it probably cost them to make it, they're like, we're going to keep using this forever. Akira Toriyama is doing a new Dragon Ball. Perfect. We're going to use this Goku, even though in Daima they're all children.
They just
it doesn't make sense.
They just paint the hair.
Make a smaller body and just put the head.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not appropriate
anymore. Put the tail back on.
How about you?
Anything? Funko. I don't know.
I'm 100% on board with this.
If you like Funko, I mean, obviously you'll see there's Funkos on the shelves. Like if you like Funko, It's just, to me, it's just the overconsumption of the people with Funko. Like they have
it's the reseller culture. It's the hype
they
culture,
have these immense, and when I say immense bags, they're like 3/4 of your I'm 5'7", right? And it's like 3/4 of my body.
They assume that you're going to buy like
and so
20.
like you see
imagine this bag 3 times as tall.
Yeah.
And not exaggerating on that at all.
And like people have them filled. And what are these? Like maybe 4x3 boxes. Yeah. So like they easily will have 50 Funkos in there, and it just
I'll send you a picture.
It feels so icky.
Put it up.
Because they're not, those people aren't buying, oh, there's 50 Funkos, I want to.
Yeah, it's like, oh, who wants like rose gold Elmo? Like, I don't think anybody wants like.
Oh, yeah, and you were talking about at the signing, Chris Sabat signing.
So then I went to the Chris Sabat signing.
Voice of Vegeta and Piccolo.
Piccolo. I went there obviously for Fruits Basket and Yuri on Ice voices and Yona of the Dawn, Hawk. And literally there was a guy there right before Chris Sabat was supposed to go to lunch. He must have had at least 20 Funko boxes of Vegeta for him to sign. And I was like, there's no way that this guy has 20 Vegeta figures.
One for each room and 3 in the bathroom.
And is going to keep them.
Or 20 friends who all want Vegeta.
Yeah, and like, so it's just like, and I don't know. So like the whole Funko culture, like I understand like if there's a figure you really like I have my Fruits Basket Funkos, but like it just feels so icky, and there's a reservation system and this exclusivity of having their line wrap around the show floor.
When it becomes about money rather than about the fandom. Yeah, I get that.
Like oversaturation and the consumerism.
I'd say probably somewhere between, not exaggerating, 30 to 40% of the show floor is people selling Funkos.
Yeah.
That's an accurate description.
Like you will see people literally go to the Funko booth because they got reservations, get these immense bags full of 50 to 100 Funkos, and then sit in the cafeteria and sell those same Funkos they just bought.
Because they're con exclusives.
There was a time, con exclusive.
Yeah.
There was a time, they fixed it already, but the reservation system for panels and the Funko reservations were all the same. Yeah. So it just got flooded and nobody ended up getting any panels because people were all reserving for Funko. Finally, like a couple years ago, before the pandemic, they split it up. But it was even worse before. Not that it's not great
It's the Bitcoin of con items. Like
Dogecoin.
It's just a hype culture, and it's just speculation. Like there are people who like Funkos. It's personally not my style. I know people who enjoy the style of Funkos. Most of the people at the cons, anybody who's carrying, I'd say more than 10, they're probably not doing it for themselves. They're doing it to sell them.
Yeah. How about you, Steve?
Activations. There was one this year. There used to be a couple, like South Park would do one.
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Activations are the big things
or
outside.
Outlander would always have one.
Yeah, if you look at our con episode about AX and SDCC, we talked about how crazy SDCC is because the activations take over a couple city blocks, and anybody who's in town can take part in them. You don't need a badge. New York Comic Con, because of the structure of New York, you couldn't just set it up on a random sidewalk. They're not going to pay to somehow reserve a space. So it's just it's not a parking lot, but it's like a
No, it is. It's like the little. It's like the drop off. Like,
yeah, I guess. Well, it is a parking lot because there was a trailer there.
Yeah, it's like the drop off area on a convention center. So like if you were getting dropped off in front of, like with a taxi.
So they could only ever fit I think one year they had 3. This year there was 1, and it was McDonald's, and that has nothing to do with fandom. They have like a chicken Big Mac.
They were promoting the new chicken Big Mac.
So it was cool because we got free food if you were willing to stand in line. They also had like a gotcha machine or a claw machine that people could play, and like no one used it
because you had to choose whether you
couldn't get a sandwich and
or
gotcha claw machine. So you would just watch the claw machines be unused for 40 minutes while you were in line for the food.
Yeah,
why
would they do that?
Line for food is like 20 minutes anyway, so it's not that much more of a wait. But anyway, like that's all we had.
I do think I did see a sign for another activation. None of us did it, but it was like a Dune activation.
Oh, that was
Dune Prophecy.
Yeah,
that was somewhere far off. I read it wasn't very good.
Was Kodansha House part of?
So I was going to bring that up because I enjoyed that, but it wasn't a Comic-Con activation.
For viewers, Kodansha House.
Kodansha is a publisher. Blue Lock and Witch Hat Atelier, Attack on Titan. Initial D, Akira. So what they did is they took over a building in Soho for a whole month. I think the last day was the 26th. Yep. And they had massive, if you've been to a con and you've seen like the Shonen Jump setup, it's big panels from like all your favorite manga. There were spoilers, at least in the Attack on Titan.
Yes,
they had panels.
Oh my god!
They had panels
like
from the ending. Yeah, I have some video of it to make a short, and I specifically didn't use those because I was like,
"This
is a spoiler."
They had a picture of Aaron's head
with Mikasa kissing it. Yeah. So that was cool. They had 2 things that you could interact with, and we talked about. I think we should put footage in our last episode, but you could be the Colossal Titan coming up over Wall Maria, and you could sit on an Akira bike doing the slide, which was cool. And then they showed movies there. I got to see Akira, which is cool. Except
our buddy Rico Fajardo was there for episode Nagi on Blue.
Oh yeah, they did do that one. I didn't get a ticket for that.
Yeah, it was a raffle system.
And then they also had creators, which had Atelier for Vinland Saga, for Blue Period, and one others. I think maybe Flowers of Evil.
So they did that for a whole month.
For a whole month. I mean, Shirahama Kamome Sensei was here for the con, and so she was here the last weekend. But like they signed things, and then the last day, because I went a couple times to film things, I became friendly with one guy who was literally there. I was like, oh man, this guy's seen me 3 times. They did a raffle the last day, totally free. Every 30 minutes they raffled off stuff. I got a signed Shikishi by the author of Blue Period.
That's awesome.
And they had like signed stuff by all those authors.
We went at the end. We got there
on the last day.
On the last day, we got there at like 5 o'clock. And
did you raffle?
Oh, one of the raffles. They're like it was every 30 minutes.
Yeah, every 30 minutes.
So I was like, oh, when's the Akira one going? They said 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was like right before it closed, and we had like reservations, so we were like, I don't know, I'll buy it if I really need it.
I think when we showed up, there was like, they were doing the Blue Lock one next, and I was like, I literally have 3 volumes of Volume 1.
That's how I felt about Akira. They raffled that during the movie, and I was like, it'd be cool to win, but like, I already own this.
Yeah.
But
so that was really cool, but it wasn't an activation, but it was probably because I assume they were like, well, we're going to be here for the con, so certain guests will be showing up. Like, I don't think Shirahama Kamome Sensei would have done it if it wasn't around the con.
Have they done a Kodansha House style thing anywhere else?
Not that I've ever seen. There was another one. Shonen Jump did a pop-up, and it was just during the con.
Yes.
And I went to that one, not as cool. It was merch. It was a lot of merch, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Naruto since it started, and the 20th anniversary, I think, of the Bleach anime. So similarly, they had some big cutouts, but like that was it. It was mostly merch.
Stop making me feel old.
Yeah. So I like that
Kodansha House
companies
cool, but like,
I like that companies were doing these things.
Yeah.
But it's because New York Comic Con isn't, or doesn't have the space for it.
I just wonder why. I wonder why it's been scaled back every year.
I don't know. Maybe
New York Comic Con?
The activations.
Yeah, the
activations.
Oh, yeah. I make the joke, and it's not funny, but remember that time during the Ash versus the Evil Dead, and the light post fell on someone?
Oh God, were they hurt?
I think they
was
like
a prop light post.
Yeah, I think it was like a bump on the head, but like they saw it, had to seek medical attention.
That's why they don't run it anymore. They're out of money.
Yeah, could be. I mean, honestly, it could have just been like, hey, it's a risk. Why do it?
Yeah.
So I'm glad they got rid of the Hammerstein Ballroom crap.
Oh yeah, walking the Hammerstein.
Pretty much everything. Almost everything is now in the con, which is great. You don't have to go very.
Well, that's because they opened up the extension.
Yeah, but remember, like even before.
Well, they had concerts and stuff.
No, I was gonna say when they would have stuff at MSG.
Yeah,
like the Walking Dead panel.
I went to Doctor Who at MSG.
The My Hero panel.
Yeah,
years
which
ago.
is like a pain because it like.
I mean, it is
on paper,
it's like a 20-minute
but it's 15, 20
walk
minutes
away from the con, and then you have to get back in. It was really.
And you're wearing cosplay.
And you have to queue.
So this is actually you're not guaranteed that you're gonna get it.
We're talking negatively about the way it used to be. This is a positive that they don't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's much better.
I will say I really enjoy going to panels in the new area of Javits.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get around than I would say SCCC was. Like if I have a panel in 10 minutes, I can get to that panel.
And it's nice that it's like. Again, my OCD organization, it's like nice that it's cordoned off in its own section. Like this is the section where the panels are.
Yeah,
great. It's easy. Other things we liked, and I know we all liked it, the cosplay competition.
Yes, we were mostly you and I were a little hard on masquerades specifically.
I stand by my
and masquerades
opinion.
are different from cosplay competitions.
So because I went to the Yaya Han panels, she disclose so masquerades are like the genesis of anime cosplay. So like when she was
history
saying,
lesson.
Yeah, she was saying that like before cosplay competitions, before all of this, like the people who would actually cosplay at a con, you would maybe be able to fit them into like one small room. Okay. And so like the masquerade was like this little way for that community to like go and show off their costumes and like do a little skit, like a little talent show type thing.
Yeah. So like naturally it was
the masquerades have kind of kept that essence of that original,
that DIY hokey. It's your friends putting on a skit. Mm-hmm. Got it. I still stand by my opinion.
But it was interesting to hear the genesis.
It was. I mean, I don't fault any of the performers. They're all great.
The masquerades I didn't see the SCCC one, but the AX one, presumably the SCCC one, the skits are relatively long.
Yeah, and sometimes there's some interesting choices on what skit to
now,
put.
Comparatively, I missed the Anime NYC one. I know they did skits
I would say the
acts.
skits
were the skits
are
as
holistic.
long?
I think they were...
There was one or two that were longer.
But I think they typically picked more exciting and enticing scenes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a monologue. It wasn't like a weird like snippet of like two people in a dramatic scene. Like it would be like a music video where it would be like.
Do you remember the quintessential quintuplets cosplay at the Anime NYC one? The 5 girls? No. So one person replied to that video who was in it. She was at the Anime NYC one, and she was like, hey, you know, some context, like, but they were talking about Anime NYC, like, you know, the skits don't really rate for much. Like, it's mostly just a costume. But, like, to be fair, Anime NYC was very different from how AX ran their masquerade and what we were told about the SDCC one. Compared to Anime NYC, how similar would you say it was to the one at New York Comic Con that we went to? Like,
I think
what
the
was that
quality of
most like?
costumes.
The quality of costumes was much higher.
There's no skit at all.
There's no skit.
They don't do skits. It's just name, costume, boom, boom.
But this was also a quarterfinal.
Correct.
So this is also part of the cosplay competition circuit. So this was part of the quarterfinal. And so like as you move up in the cosplay competition circuit, like I think they said the finals are in
Chicago,
Europe,
right?
in
Chicago.
Oh, in Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago.
Okay.
It's the Chicago.
But like
con.
it's been in Japan, it's been
like
in
February or
Europe.
something.
Like so it's a little more the people who are you're seeing at New York Comic Con, it's a quarterfinal. So they've already won their local circuit. They've already been
and
like
the circuit that they're going
to
to only cares about the cosplay as compared to whatever the circuit is at Anime Expo where the winner was going to go to Japan where like clearly skits were a part of it.
Yeah, like yeah.
Also, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like some of the people that competed at the New York Comic Con quarterfinals, some of them like had professional background.
Well,
in
I think that's the difference between like cosplay and costuming.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's a good call that there's like a line that's kind of getting crossed or blended.
Yeah. Like it's more like costume. Like these people who literally were at the New York Comic Con cosplay competition, like you could take their outfits and put them in a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
but the winner, they had a couple different awards, but when they gave like a final award,
my favorite one,
the fire one that the person, so a few of the costumes were entirely interpreted based off of written word only, so like books or stories, and one of the ones that won was this like Firebird kind of cosplay that this person had entirely envisioned, and they gave that person the award, and they'd never, I think they said that was their first one. That they had cosplayed.
But I think they had like a professional background, like
probably. So like they branched into this one. They hadn't done it before. Yeah.
But it was really good. It was great.
And this was the first. So Yaya Han was the host. She's awesome. She's literally like the fairy godmother of cosplay. Like she wants everyone to do well.
Such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And then
add her to our list of good cosplay competition hosts with Toasty.
Yes, and then she also she cheered everyone, and then they also had like the Viewer's Choice Award, I'll call it, where you got to vote, which was very unique, which was quite unique.
But it was funny because like everybody crashed the server, and people are like, "It's not working! It's not working!" But we got there.
That was fun. I liked that.
I don't know why they don't all do that because, like, you don't, just make up an extra award. Like, it keeps the audience engaged.
I like that. They explained that the winner of the competition, it's not just about wow factor.
Yeah.
Right. It's about the workmanship. It's about like the intricacies and the ideas put into it. Yeah. So like the people who win, it's not necessarily these big foam creations.
Well, I think it's because last year there was all of that controversy because the Mimic didn't win, and it had the wow factor, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of the judges were like having to defend their decision on not having that one person win.
Yeah.
Was that the one that the Berserk Casca and Guts won? Was that last year?
Perhaps. I don't know. I don't remember who won.
Last year.
But I do remember like there was a lot of back and forth in the cosplay community on like
in the anime community.
And the anime community, just like size versus
motion.
Which I think is the separation of like a lot of people can have ideas online, but like when experts are judging something, they're judging from a perspective you don't have because you haven't invested the time to understand it.
I like that. Like she didn't have to go through the whole syllabus; she just gave us that, and it was like, okay, let's get everybody.
She got the point across quickly. So yeah, overall, where would you rate that cosplay competition compared to the others that we saw?
I think it's the best cosplay competition of all, like including the masquerades. It's the best showcase of costuming at a convention.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say having not seen the Anime NYC one, but just the end, which looked cool, I would probably agree with that as well. Maybe if the Anime NYC one, the skits were short enough, I would like that.
Yeah.
But I appreciated just the focus on, look at this cool thing they made. They're going to walk and spin for 30 seconds on to the next person.
I also think Anime NYC had the best masquerade.
Oh, I was going to say, that was
New
the most
York
entertaining.
Stand up, always.
Yeah, that's true. And then where does this con rate for you with the other ones that we went to? We speculated when we talked about the other 4 where we thought it would be. Now that you've gone, I know where it is for me.
Well, are we including the fact that we live in New York?
I think take that away and you can just speak to the caveat. I'll go first. This is the bottom for me. Not that it's bad, but AX was my favorite, and then Anime, NYC, and SDCC are close just because SDCC still got a decent amount of anime contests, and it was interesting to go once. New York Comic Con doesn't have as much anime content, and it's similar to SDCC, just smaller. Okay. It's cool because it's home. I will always go to it because it's home, but I went to the least things, and there was the least attracting me in this one. But it's still good.
I mean, New York Comic Con, I think I speak on behalf of all of us, where it just like holds a special place in all of our hearts.
Yeah.
Always have that like sentimental value to all of us.
You were our first.
Yeah, exactly. Right. For me, I think I like New York Comic. Like, I think the anime conventions, all in all, are like take up the top spots.
Yes.
And then if I were to put knowing that SDCC and New York Comic Con are at the bottom, I would personally rate New York Comic Con higher than SDCC. The reasons being is I do think New York Comic Con does a really good job of keeping its grassroots feel of like, this is New York and this is, you have the New York people, the New York state of mind. It doesn't feel so Hollywood. I'm not a California person.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel so like salesy.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how much of my perspective of that was colored by the Lisa and One Piece concerts. And if I take that away from SDCC, what did I do?
Yeah. If the Lisa concert wasn't at SDCC, I literally was telling you yesterday, I was like, if Lisa wasn't at SDCC,
it wouldn't have been worth it.
It wouldn't have been worth it for me.
I didn't go to anything.
Yeah.
We didn't go to any panels.
What do you mean? The Snowpiercer season 2, episode 7 premiere?
Season 7, yeah. The Adult Swim thing. That was the only activation. You're right. Maybe it's actually up there. Above SDCC.
I put AX.
Yeah, top. I think we all agree.
I think I'm putting all the anime conventions,
including Otakon.
Yeah,
you also put that up.
So I put AX
here. I put AX here. I put NYC here.
Okay.
SDCC like right next to it, just because I like the feel that the town is sort of shut down for SDCC. I like that. Everywhere you go, everybody's asking.
That's
are you
less comparing the cons and more like the nature around them.
Yes,
the atmosphere, the vibe.
SDC easily has the only one.
The creation, what it creates. That's why I like SDCC. Yeah. And then NYCC, like a little bit further down, but this is all still like good. Yeah. But Otakon, I feel like I can't fairly rate it yet. I put an asterisk on it just because I feel like a lot of it is like after con or like late night sort of events that we didn't get to go to. So I have a feeling I'm going to really like them, but I'll hold out my judgment until next year.
Yeah, I think all of us skew to various degrees more heavily towards the
anime-centric content.
Yeah, anime and Korean and Chinese content compared to Western content. And if you skew more towards Western, I imagine you would probably rate SDCC and New York Comic Con higher.
We've talked about this before. I think part of it is that Western media, they do a really good job at marketing.
Yes.
So you're always going to see things on Twitter. You're always going to see things on Instagram. You're going to find news about it.
From the PR side, they're reaching out way more. Like they're doing their job versus some of the Japanese companies were like, yeah, we're just going to be there and we're not going to speak to anyone.
And I think that's why
we're not going to speak, period.
I think that's why the conventions feel special for anime stuff, because you're seeing it there and like you're probably not going to see it anywhere else for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Yeah, and the guests, if you get to see like a guest coming over from Japan, it's like, congratulations, this is probably the one time ever that they're coming.
Yeah.
So,
but best moment ever, like NYCC last year, seeing Jack Black come out.
Oh,
as Bowser.
As Bowser. That made me really excited for a movie I didn't see, and I'm glad I did.
You have to watch that movie.
No. I've talked to some people who have shared similar opinions to me on that, and they were like, you're not going to enjoy this. It's just, that's a separate conversation. I'm not interested.
The next podcast episode, we're just gonna do a Steve live reacts.
I'll live react to the Mario movie, but you're not gonna like it.
I saw it by myself in the movie theater.
Did you enjoy it?
It was a fun watch.
Yeah.
If you take away the like, oh look, it's that character. Oh look, it's that
No,
character. Like,
it was a fun
the
watch.
story, because I've heard a summary of the story and I'm like, I'm not.
It's for children.
Correct, and
Yes.
I'm not gonna get super excited about. Oh look, it's that character from Mario 3 because I didn't play.
Oh, I'm sorry, you've grown up.
No, I don't know half the references. So like,
okay.
They're like, oh, it's for kids and adults who've played all the Mario games. I've played like 4.
You're like, where's Sephiroth?
Yeah, they're gonna be like, here's Donkey Kong. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I know him from Smash, but I'm not excited to see him.
Where are all the people from Persona? And where are all the people from Yakuza?
The fact that Joker's in, like, give me a Smash movie with Joker, and all of a sudden I'm interested. You got Solid Snake versus Joker? Heck yeah. So wow, that was a tangent. But speaking of movies that I think are disappointments, I guess it's more of a show / an OVA, 4 OVAs, Uzumaki. Which a lot of people after episode 1 came out and they're like, we finally got it. We got it.
Yeah.
We got the adaptation we always wanted.
Yeah.
And then episode 2 came out.
Jinx.
And then episodes 3 and 4 came out.
It just kept on getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
And this was in production for I think like 8 years. And it was Adult Swim. Joe DiMaggio. Is that his name? DiMaggio? Joe DeMarco?
No, the guy who voices Bender.
I think
that's DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio is
I might have the
baseball
wrong name.
player. John DiMaggio is
I think it's Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio, I think baseball player, the Yankee, the famous Yankee.
The guy from Adult Swim was a producer for this. He was involved, and he came out and said some things about what went on in the production and how bad it was. And basically, there's a lot of potential finger pointing. I sent you a video that I think does a good job guessing at it. It's probably Zaslav's fault. I think we can safely assume he's at least largely to blame. They worked on it for a really long time. Turns out they scrapped the project twice because they didn't like what they'd made.
Jeez.
And ultimately, he said we had 3 options. One was to get rid of all of it and just never release anything. 2 is just release the 1 episode and be like, hey, we didn't finish the rest. Or the 3rd was like, hey, we know it's not great.
Like,
but
scrap something together.
Here's what we did. Here's what we have. You at least get it.
It's so disappointing because Uzumaki was like the first manga that I just did not put down. Like I read through it in like 4 or 5 hours because I was like looking at everything. And I don't even like horror. And that first episode was so good. It was chef's kiss so good. And then seeing some of the tweets come out for episode 2, I started episode 2 and it was like, what is this PowerPoint slide?
I don't like horror. I didn't watch it. I just saw the tweets about episode 2 and I was texting you guys like, are you okay? I knew you were excited after episode 1. How's it going over there?
It was just
Junji Ito. He always gets the short end of the stick.
I know, poor guy. But if you do, I mean, Uzumaki, obviously, but this is my favorite Junji Ito.
Young Is it the cat one?
Yeah, it's the one about his 2 cats.
Have you ever watched interviews with him?
He's the sweetest man.
He's so happy and cheerful. And there was an interview recently about, and they asked him, like, compared to you, was it Stephen King? Maybe it was Tolkien. I don't know. It was an author who'd passed away who did horror, so I guess it wasn't Tolkien. But they were like, you're so happy, and like we've heard that this guy's like so sad. Like, what do you think it is about you? And he's like, well, that was just one quote from him. For all we know, he was like super cheerful outside of it. But he's like, I'm just a guy who enjoys my cats.
Yeah,
he's so chipper.
He's the opposite of H.R. Geiger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Uzumaki.
Oh, it was Lovecraft. H.P.
Lovecraft.
Lovecraft.
Oh, Lovecraft. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, he's like maybe Lovecraft was a super cheerful guy off script. So
Uzumaki, we completely agree with everything that the Twitterverse and the anime community is saying. It's just
Did you watch all 4? Did you watch 2?
I watched 1 and 2.
Okay. Yeah, same.
One thing I had seen, now that there's some hindsight, like obviously it looked good. Thinking about episode 1, I'd heard it was maybe they packed a lot into it, trying to fit too much storyline into the first episode, and people were like, hey, it looks good, so it's cool, but like looking at it in context of like we were kind of rushing through stuff.
How many episodes are there?
4.
And it's done in 4.
It's whatever, 4
I mean, well, you
shot.
saw 1 and 2, so that was
half the story.
You saw half the time.
Yeah.
Did it feel like it was moving a little too quick or fitting too much in?
I felt like it was moving at the pace.
So that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
This is it.
So like if you were to just quickly divide that into 4, divide that into 4, see where we're at, right? Divide it into 4.
Divided in, this is 4, right? This is like about a 4.
That's actually, I would say that's too much because usually with anime adaptations, you get 3 to 4 episodes.
Yeah, I'm just saying
volume.
just as a quick context.
That looks like that looks like 2 manga volumes, maybe 2.5. So like compared to the typical setup of 3 to 4 episodes for a manga volume. It's maybe a little quick. I didn't watch it. I just heard some people say, like, now that it's all done, we moved kind of fast because they were trying to fit in as much as they could because they were clearly fans.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is unfortunate because they were fans.
I think given that they knew that they had to get it done in 4 episodes, I think the pacing is fine. But I don't think the pacing is the issue at all.
Yeah.
Like, the story is good, but like, so much of what Junji Ito does is like it's visual, it's vibes, it's like making you feel a certain way. And I think the 2 big things for any adaptation of horror is you need really good visuals and you need really good sound design. We were at the Shudder panel, and somebody was talking about, like, if you're scared of horror, don't close your eyes, close your ears, because ears, like, the sound is what gets you scared. That, like, low rumble, like the silence, that's what really gets to you. Where, like, when it's just your eyes, you're like, oh, that's a puppet. Oh, that's CG. And then looking at this, it's just like the first episode, the visuals were great, the sound was great, and then they just dropped the ball on all the visuals. So it's like, no matter how good everything else is, half of the equation is gone.
Yeah.
So you saw episode 2. Did you watch the first episode of season 2 of Blue Lock?
Yes.
Yes.
Which one's worse?
Uzumaki.
Okay.
I think people are blowing
Blue Lock out of
proportion.
I was expecting it to be a lot worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then,
I saw a couple clips and I'm like, that's not great, but I'm seeing clips.
Because when we watched episode 2, and I can honestly compared that to, like, season 1, and I was like, I didn't feel like it was a stark difference. Like, a lot of Blue Lock, for those of you who don't know, it's a soccer anime, but it's your typical shonen where the protagonist
Squid Game meets
soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
But, like, all of that is a means to say that the protagonist does a lot of internal monologues.
Yeah.
So, like,
if
I
they
don't
do
know.
that pass, I have to go.
Yeah, I have, like, 1 second to react.
honestly,
Give me 3 minutes to talk about it.
If you watch Awashi, like, Blue Lock is action-packed.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, most sports anime are not action-packed.
No, there's moments of action.
But yeah, like, I think it
was a little exaggerated.
Yeah, I mean, is some of the criticism warranted? Yes. It's not as bad as people are saying it is. But Uzumaki is as bad as people are saying it is.
Now, one thing some people are saying is this continues to prove you cannot adapt a Junji Ito manga, except episode 1 proved that you can.
Yeah.
You just need, I don't know, time, a better plan. Yeah. I think episode 2 was out, 24 animation directors. So, like, animation director changed every minute. Like, it's about approach.
Yeah, I mean, Junji Ito, his drawings are so detailed, and that's why
it's just so ironic because you have animate. Like, if people who pick up these projects are truly fans, it's like you would think they'd want to do it justice, and it's like then business.
I think it's all cost cutting.
Business
gets in the way, and it's so unfortunate because Junji Ito is such a cult following, and it is he's such a dynamic force within the anime community or manga community.
Yeah, I feel like we can all sympathize with that. Who hasn't, like, been part of a job where you want to do something one way because you know that would be the best way to do it, and your bosses and your bosses' bosses are like, nope, you got to do it by the book, and you're just like, this is ruining everything.
But isn't it Netflix, right? Or was it HBO?
No, it was Uzumaki. Adult Swim was behind it. So
yeah, but what is it? What streaming services?
I forget.
I think it was on HBO.
Probably HBO.
Well, considering Zaslav and that
Discovery.
I will say I haven't verified. Like, I don't know this personally. I just read that the director who worked on this is, like, generally blacklisted in the.
Why? Why did they get blacklisted?
The way I'm reading some messages I'd seen about it. He's incompetent, horrible to work with, and generally just a lot of outsourcing of work. So I think it's not so much formally blacklisted as, like, he's kind of known
as notoriously not great.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's he's not great or he's brought in because, like, projects aren't going well and they're like, who the fuck? Who's gonna work on this? Let's get this guy. So I don't know personally.
Who can get this out the door?
You can look at how much was outsourced for those other episodes and be like, okay, clearly moves were probably made at the executive level.
Well, that's good. That's good to know that he is what he is. So if his name is attached to it, take it with a grain of salt. Like, maybe this will be good, and maybe he was brought in last second because they need to get it out the door, and he's the person who can get it out the door.
Yeah, who knows?
So
One other thing that we could talk about, which had part of the online community, who knows how much these people really represent.
Yeah, big voice, small group.
Yeah, the feedback on Dandadan, which I'm luckily not in circles to see. So I was just busy in the like Dandadan subreddit going like, we got a good adaptation, this is amazing. But apparently some people were not enjoying something about it.
Yeah, I mean, so we all know that first episode, if you've watched it, where Momo's in a pretty compromising situation.
Okay, so it's that stuff.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot. There's people.
Wait, can you like just explain it?
Yeah. So then there's a situation. So there's a lot of people who take contest to that situation, and it's because she's in a compromising situation where she's kind of strapped down in a chair in her underwear with 3 men around her.
To be fair, 3 aliens.
3 aliens
with weird mechanical penis-like things.
Yes. So then, like, you know, it's meant to be like a commentary on like the probing the brain, but like probing something else.
Yep.
So because of that being in the first episode, and because of that them being minors and her being in her underwear, and it's not just like granite panty underwear, it's like pretty sexy lingerie-esque things for a high school girl.
And because this is one of the biggest anime.
And because it's one of the biggest animes, there's just there was some questions whether it was absolutely necessary and if it added to the story or not.
And what's the general consensus, or what's the discussion?
So I think it very much depends on what side of
what are the 2 sides
social media that you're on, but it's either you're like, oh, this is like standard, it's fine, like it's not a big deal, like it adds to it's fine in the story, it doesn't detract. And then there's the other side that's like, why is this even necessary? Why did it have to be something so sexualized? Could it have just been like could she be clothed? Could it have just been like the brain probing like I talked about? Like, why does it have to be like about sex and genitalia and like trying to impregnate somebody?
Yeah. Which that part I would disagree with, and this is just having read the story or watched like 3 episodes. Like, a lot of the power is tied into, in a funny way. The guy's like, I just wanted to tell dick jokes. Like, we're on episode 4 now. Spoiler for episode 5. In the beginning, Okarun loses his penis thanks to Turbo Granny. Later, he loses his balls, which is apparently a source of power. Like, there's a lot of jokes about genitalia.
Yeah.
And the thing with her getting probed by the aliens is they're like, we all look the same. We need to
differentiate our
species. So we want your banana. Like, it's not even necessarily, I mean, visually, but like, they're not necessarily saying like, we're going to have sex with you and you're going to give birth to alien babies, which is in a lot of anime. Like, there's so much worse in anime. It's just, okay, it's equal to men and women, which we talked about in the last episode. Like, when people get nude, it tends to be both of them if you're caught up on the manga. There's another scene of that, and Okarun ends up completely naked again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but, like, being in anime, this feels really non-egregious, and also after episode 1, it hasn't happened again in the anime.
Yeah. I think it's because it's had so much hype, and it's episode 1, and so you have a lot of people being like, oh, I dropped it out of after episode 1.
Which I think is a shame, because that's not what the rest of the manga is like.
Right, which is what a lot of then like the response or the stitches are then saying is like, no, like this, it's kind of like this is
like it's just episode 1.
Yeah, so it's like it's quite jarring.
The rest of it before that happened.
Yeah. And
which is
I mean, I did have even questioning myself. I'm like, did this like would this story be different and if she was older, right? Like,
definitely.
Yeah,
like,
older.
you know, like
there's always that question in all anime.
Like, I think it would be less controversial if maybe they were in college or maybe they were, but because they're, I don't know, what, first, second year of high school.
Yeah, they're like 10th graders maybe.
They're like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like because they're young and because, you know, why is it the Gyaru, right? But to your point, Steve, right, it's pretty equal-sided.
Like actually an alien already took Okarun's genitalia, but she just like stole it, not like physically grabbing. It's like a weird spiritual thing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people could get triggered by it.
I just if you watch anime, I think it's relatively non-egregious compared to even other shows that are out this season. Like ReZero has not as much. Well, actually, if you're caught up, ReZero's worse.
I think. Just in general with the community, like if you hold this opinion about Dandadan, then keep that energy for all of your tastes. Right? Don't just point it out against Dandadan because Dandadan's popular right now.
Yeah.
Like look at everything you watch and really think about like what are the biases I have, what are the triggers that I have, what am I watching and not watching, and what am I just doing because everybody else says that it's not cool.
The one somewhat fair. I'm like trying to think through who would be saying this. Is like you both pointed out, this got very hyped up for good reason. I'm fully caught up. I'm loving this adaptation. It may have been marketed to people who aren't as into anime, the way that like Attack on Titan and other things were.
Because of the mass
if you don't
release,
watch a lot of anime, and this was your intro, like Attack on Titan is violent, but it's not sexy. And the same thing with Jujutsu Kaisen isn't sexy at the beginning. So like, you know, that ties into the conversation about the Western media is totally okay with kids seeing violence, which is wrong, but sex, which people do. Or like sexual things.
Sex, which is like a core tenet to life.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll show you people getting beheaded.
Not that like,
but we'll show you super jail, but you know.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if maybe there's some people complaining probably just look to complain, but maybe some people saw this who aren't too familiar with anime.
Yeah,
and I think too, it's like critique. Being on like more of like shoujo talk and stuff. Like people also are a little more sensitive to equality, age gap, power dynamics. I will say, like, if you're on the shoujo side of all of that, like, that is very much a hot topic right now. Like, I even own some manga that's, like, considered blacklisted. I was about to
ask, because there's a fair bit of that element of power dynamics in shoujo.
Yeah, so, like, it's even within the community, like, it's quite polarizing.
Yeah.
And so, like, this now coming out, it's, like, if I'm putting myself in the narrative, right, it's like perpetuating that stigma and that, you know.
Right. If you're being consistent, that's fair.
Exactly.
I would say
just
watch
a
episode
lot
2
of the
because it
people
doesn't happen
who
in
are
episode 2.
speaking out about this are more on that, like, and I'm part of this community, the shoujose side of the equation. Because they're like, Momo, awesome gyaru, powerful, like she has powers, she's like able to unlock this confidence, like.
And honestly, she overcomes that situation pretty much by herself. Like Okarun spoilers for episode 1.
Doesn't help.
Okarun comes to try and help, fails, and she kicks ass by herself.
Yeah, and I don't believe anything like that happens to her again. As far as like her being, because it opens with like her boyfriend kicking her, like she isn't powerful enough to stand up.
And then there's the mirror.
And then the mirror is, she gets her power and it manages to stop these aliens.
Yeah.
Nothing like that happens to her again.
Yeah,
so, like,
literal immediate comment on female empowerment.
Yeah, and part of the story is like Okarun fails to save her. Episode 3 and even 4 also doesn't really save, like ultimately she saves the day and he keeps being unable to save her. And for him, it's a story of like, not women can't take care of themselves, but like, I'm not powerful enough to help this girl who is my friend, who I'm also attracted to. I want to get powerful enough to help the people I care about. And that's his story.
Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still going.
I think it's important.
But if you just see episode 1, you missed that. If you got knocked off, just try episode 2. You're gonna realize that doesn't happen.
And if it's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah, but like it's unique to episode 1.
Yeah.
So
and I wonder, in any case, I think it's important to have critique within the context of the creation as a whole, and in the context of like what community it's part of. Yeah.
I'm also curious to see, now we got 4 episodes out. Ira gets introduced in the next one. And like over the next few episodes, I wonder if some people will be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, that was just in episode 1. And like, I'm glad to see that it didn't continue.
Moving on, episode 4.
Yeah.
Episode 4 was great, but I
feel like the animation
changed a little bit.
There were some comments about Sakuga Boru did like a long article about like how they'd gone about working on this, and they obviously put a lot into like some very interesting camera angles and things were shifting around. It had a vibe to it.
Yeah, well, even not just
it felt
the vibe,
smoother.
But like, it felt smoother. Like the first episode, it felt very like punk rock, very hand drawn. This one felt a little more clean in not animation style, but like art style.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't know.
Like the lines were crisp, like thinner or crisper.
Is that like an art direction thing? Or is it just
there is a thing with like, there's a really famous Naruto episode where he fights against Sasuke, and like it's super blurred, like nothing is distinct because it highlights motion. Yeah, so there's probably an element of that. I mean, there's just more and more comments coming out about the director Yamashiro and just how intentional everything that he does is. And you can really pick up on it in the series. Like even in episode 1, when they cut between Momo and Okarun,
the use of red and blue,
that the moon is a different color between them, and it's like kind of weird because it fits the color scheme. One is yellowish over Okarun because he's with Turbo Granny, so it's like that. Whereas it's bluer with Momo, and you're like, okay, it kind of fits the color vibe. It's also because the moon was fake, because that was a spaceship.
Yeah,
and like, I didn't pick up on that at all. I remember seeing it and being like, oh, color difference, but like, oh, it's intentional because the aliens had a fake moon. you know, like who notices that stuff? But
personally, I'm gonna continue watching.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
How about you? Are you gonna continue watching?
Yeah, but I mean, compared to like High School of the Dead and High School DxD, this is softball.
In terms of horror, in terms of
the fan service.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think the fan service is too bad after this. I mean,
compared to Yuri on Ice, the fan service in this is
the next fan service scene in this, not specific, but it's the hallway. The school hallway, which is like such an equal situation, and it's not like it's funny.
Yeah. For me, there's no fan service until Quinta comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. Mecha God Quinta. Save us all. So moving on from that, and kind of the horror element or the scary element, the psychological element, this is our Halloween episode, which I guess I'm saying like an hour in. Hey, it's our Halloween episode.
Boo!
I've got nothing.
That's scary.
It. Bye. No, you guys are super into Halloween and horror.
Yeah.
You made your wedding Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pan to the 8-foot skeleton that's in our corner right now.
It's always there.
Yeah.
It's just dressed up.
Permanent decoration.
Yeah. Permanent decoration. 24/7, 365.
Uzumaki wasn't good. Do you enjoy horror anime? I'm not into horror in general, so I don't watch horror anime, but
I don't like horror films. Like, I try to stay away from scary movies.
But you went to a Shudder panel.
Yeah, which like Emily really wanted to go, so I went, and I really appreciated it. I just actors talking about the behind the scenes.
You went for craft, not for I love horror talk.
Yeah, but I really do enjoy horror manga and anime. Well, let me say, I enjoy horror manga. I have yet to enjoy a horror anime.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah.
Same.
I mean, I love horror, and so that's why I tend to gear more towards the paranormal, occult, and scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, Uzumaki was disappointing. Tokyo Ghoul was disappointing.
Because of Ri, or even the first?
Because of Ri.
Okay. So, but Tokyo Ghoul you enjoyed?
The first.
I mean, yeah, Ri is tough.
Yeah,
but...
Ri is tough. And then Death Note. Death Note.
Not really horror. It's more like psychological.
Yeah.
Meh
on it.
Good with L.
It's just hard.
Hard. Pretty much everybody agrees it was kind of like that. Kind of seemed like they wanted to end it, and they may have been encouraged to keep the series going.
It's like, okay, what's the next letter?
Well, that used to happen. That used to happen a lot more in mangas. Like, you're serialized. We don't have a ton of like great stuff. This is popular. Keep going. Like, don't know for sure, but a lot of people like it's pretty easy to point to Death Note and be like, he probably planned for an ending, and then they're like, keep it going.
It was Scrubs season 9.
Yes.
And then, well, not horror. I like the settings of like horror verses. So like anything with vampires, Soul Eater, Devil's Line, like that kind of stuff.
So you're more into horror movies.
Yes.
Obviously, there's differences with anime and live action, and like we could talk about why Akira as a movie will make a terrible live action. A lot of anime live actions don't work. Do you think maybe there's
Dragon Ball?
Yeah. Do you think maybe there's an element of horror that works well in live action that's really hard to bring to anime?
To be honest, for me, I think the piece that makes it difficult for me to get into horror anime is because of like the 20-minute bookends.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's serialized, so like you're waiting, like Angels of Death, right? Like such a fun anime to watch, but it's 13 episodes, and so like you're in and out of it. Right? Yeah. Whereas in a horror movie, you're like dedicated at least 90 minutes. You're in this world.
What about horror TV, if that's a thing? Like American Horror Story? I'm thinking like...
Oh, wow. That's a whole other episode.
Maybe not. Is there horror...
Talk about the Uzumaki problem.
Are there horror TV shows, or is it just or is it just in general 20-minute time?
I feel like American Horror Story is the...
I think you're right. It's the 20...
Too short.
Because you think about like a classic
movie. I don't even know if
it's
too short. It's just like you're not in it. You're like, you're in and out.
Yeah, like you can step away. You don't have to watch the next episode immediately versus if you sat down and you were stuck for 4 or 5.
So like in a movie, typically you have the 3-act structure, right? So like you're moving along, and at the climax of the second act, that's where like everything hits, right? There's scares, there's realizations, there's all of that. But when you're doing 20-minute episodes, you can't, to do the 3-act structure in every 20-minute episode, unless you have like a monster of the week, which sort of makes it cheesy.
Yeah, because you know what it's going to go through every time.
It removes the
I mean, that's like literally Rosario Vampire is the commentary on that whole thing, but yes.
Yeah, and that's not even a horror.
Yeah.
That's very much
But I think that again, I think though, conversely, the reason why I then think psychological thrillers and mysteries work better in anime is because of that 20-minute structure. Because you can leave on a cliff note. And you are enticed to then join in on the next week or start the next episode.
And you have 3 to 4 hours total to keep introducing information.
Exactly. Which is why something like a summertime rendering for me, or like something like that, where it's more interesting because I'm like, oh my God, like what's the next twist and turn, or what's the next?
I imagine it's challenging. Like you have to be very good about making each episode, like the cliffhanger, feel earned, and not just doing it because we got 6 more episodes to go.
And you'd ask me, and I don't watch horror, but like the things I have to recommend are more in the psychological thriller element, and I think that's ultimately why. So we're not going to go through it, but I'd pulled up some famous, or popular, I should say, horror anime, aside from the ones you guys talked about. I don't know, maybe you guys have seen some of these, but like...
recommend, please.
I can recommend the beginning of this. It doesn't end well. Promised Neverland, had you heard of?
I mean, heard of it, yes.
I can't tell you too much about it but like it opens on kids in an orphanage, like small kids who have been just weirdly raised to be super smart. Like you look at the lifestyle they're leading, like why are these kids like so physically athletic, and like they, these kids are like 12 and they're doing calculus. Like what is going on here? And very clear early in that episode, you get a sense of like, oh, the world outside of them that they're unaware of. It's a strong start. If you're interested in continuing it after season 1, read the manga. There is no season 2. The internet is going to tell you season 2 exists, but it doesn't. There is no season 2.
Okay. Just like there's no second episode.
They definitely didn't cut out the best act of the manga and come up with like an anime original act 2. That would be silly. So you go to the manga.
Was it like a Full Metal Alchemist situation?
No, because that's good.
So they
did that because the manga didn't exist. The manga was over.
No, that's what I'm asking.
The manga was over when season 2 came out,
and they just
did their own thing.
They wanted an anime only.
I'll watch season 1.
Akame Got Kill gets listed. It's okay. It was popular when it came out because it was one of those series where like, hey, here's a bunch of characters you're going to care about. Oh shit, they're dying. Like they're killing people you care about. It doesn't end well. And then Made in Abyss, you've seen a little bit.
Yes, I watched the first 4 episodes of Made in Abyss.
I don't know if I'd call it horror. There's horror elements. I'd say it's more psychological thriller but like the horror is humans are terrible.
It's a horrible place.
It's a horrible place with cutesy kids and one of the best soundtracks. That series is amazing. You've never seen it?
No.
You have to be in the right headspace. It's absolutely worth it. I still haven't watched season 2 because I watched season 1 and I'm like, I'm just not in a good place.
I'm not mentally able to.
That was me. I watched the first 4 episodes and I'm like, I can't do this right now. Maybe I'll revisit it now that I'm like in a better mental space. But it's good. The first 4 episodes are great. It's just rough.
Did you guys watch High School of the Dead? Because this is listed as horror. I don't know. I mean, the boob jiggle physics and that make me think it can't be that much horror.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched it.
If you didn't like Dandadan episode 1, watch that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some horror. There's some
Prison School. That's horrible.
Prison School. Prison School entertained me, but goddamn it, like there's some humor elements to it. But man, that was like, I like this part. I don't like this part. I like this part. I don't like this part. Devilman Crybaby is a great recommendation. That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
That's I think 12 episodes. Masashi Yuasa did it, and it's a retelling of a story.
Okay.
That one's spectacular. And similarly, it's like, man, people are terrible.
Okay.
And then the other ones, I don't know if you've ever watched anything by Satoshi Kon, but Perfect Blue is a movie. Mm-hmm. So if it's that idea of like you got 2 hours to tell a story. It's this actress, this very famous actress who, or actually no wait, maybe I'm thinking.
Oh my God, I have this like years ago. Somebody had recommended me this, and like it's on my list of things to watch, and I still haven't watched it. Perfect Blue. I'll watch it.
Yeah. Is it the dancer?
Yeah, they call it a psychological thriller. Yeah, maybe she's a dancer, and I think she's an actress. But it's about her not being able to separate reality from her imagination as she deals with a potential stalker. But like you don't quite know what's real, and that's something Satoshi Kon works with well. And then he did another series called Paranoia Agent, which is a TV show, and it's not dystopian, but it's like a
live action.
No, anime. He only does anime. Where it's like streets of Tokyo, things are a little darker, and there's like this kid going around with a baseball bat, like killing people. They don't know who this person is. Like they can't find this person, and it seems like there's maybe something otherworldly about what he's doing. And it's an ensemble cast of like people that are like involved in this like neighborhood trying to figure it out. Great TV show, and also anything by Satoshi Kon is good, but like those two are very much in the psychological thriller angle, and highly recommended.
I'm in.
Yeah, but I think almost everything I've recommended is maybe got some horror elements, but it's not really horror. I just don't think horror anime.
Well, you know what's true horror? They took Kami-sama Kiss off Crunchyroll.
What? Why?
A lot of stuff ended up getting pulled.
I know.
Why? Did Discovery buy Crunchyroll?
Don't say that out loud. You'll give them ideas.
No, I never said that. You know what I'm watching right now?
Yeah.
That I guess sort of falls into that, like, it's not horror, but Dorohedoro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
It's on my list. I've seen some of the clips of it, and I like the manga.
It's like your typical mappa. It's like batshit in the beginning, and it's fun.
Yeah,
I'm liking it.
And it was, I mean, they were still overworked then, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. So you don't have to feel as guilty watching it. Pulling back a little bit, any Halloween plans? Did you guys do any Halloween? I mean, you guys had a Halloween party that I didn't go to.
Yeah, we had a Halloween party. Emily went as Sadako from The Ring.
Oh, nice.
I went.
Did you go as the one the Versus? What is it?
Sadako
versus The Grudge.
I was supposed to go as the boy from The Grudge, but things got in the way, so I wasn't able to. So instead, I went as a Japanese schoolgirl. And whenever
I saw that.
Whenever anybody asked what I was, I just told them I was from Suicide Club, and then I had to explain what Suicide Club was to a bunch of drunk people.
What is Suicide Club?
It's a Japanese movie where a bunch of girls jump in a train.
In the first 5 minutes. Like literally the opening scene is just like all these like schoolgirls running to a train. And you're like, oh, that's fun.
They jump in front of the Shinkansen.
And then jump in front of the Shinkansen, and it's just blood everywhere.
Did you, I can't remember if this was in the interview we watched, Sadako versus The Grudge?
Yeah.
Yeah, we literally bought Shudder just to watch them.
That was the inspiration for Yuki Nobutatsu. That inspired him. He's like, I was like, what if we went beyond this and like different yokai and aliens were like, that gave him the idea of like, he really liked it. And he, not maybe the whole idea, but he was like, I wanted to go further with like, what if these different like things that aren't real, otherworldly things interacted.
Don't tell him about King Kong and Godzilla.
I mean,
what we'll get.
You've read the manga.
I know.
Yeah. We've already done that.
Spoilers!
Yeah, God, Kinta. Okay, so the party was good?
Party was good.
Yeah.
Party was good. And then tomorrow...
we'll just go to see the parade.
Yeah. Okay. We got the parade. How about you?
I'm going to that event with the YouTube thing.
The creator.
So I might just be going in this Charmander costume.
People will remember.
Keep it simple. It was either that or some weeby ass costumes. I was like, this I think most people will recognize.
Yeah. Very good.
Cool. So that's the Halloween episode. We're not doing all themed because I don't know the next one. There's nothing in mid-November.
Thanksgiving.
Turkey themed.
You guys are
everybody dressed.
You guys are going to be here for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're going to be in Japan.
Yeah.
Where are we going? Fukuoka and Osaka, Kyoto, and then Tokyo for a little bit for 2 weeks.
So yeah, in the December episode, we'll have your trip to talk about.
Yes, but then you're going to Japan in December.
End of December, I think. Yeah, I still haven't booked it, but I'm going for Komiket, hopefully.
Are you gonna stay there for New Year's?
Yeah. I was there for New Year's 15 years ago.
Oh boy!
So it'll be interesting to see what it's like now that's horribly overcrowded with tourists.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we're one of them, or two of them.
Yeah, I'll be two of them as well.
Happy Halloween, everyone! Happy Halloween!
We'll be less spooky in the next one.
Boo.
Boo.